To get started on your Van Gogh sunflower, you will need a piece of paper with a circle on it. First, we're going to turn it over and we're going to write our name on the back. Don't forget to write your class code below your name. Let's go over how to draw our sunflower. So your circle should be a little bit above the middle of the paper. If I turned my paper this way, my circle is closer to the bottom. So our circle should be closer to the top. So this is going the right way. We want to have enough room for our petals and the stem of our sunflower. We're going to get started by drawing some petals. I'm going to draw a curved line and then another curve that comes out in the other direction. And I'm going to put some all the way around my circle. We're going to end up filling in the empty spaces with more petals. Notice how I'm turning my paper when I do this. So a curved line and then another curve that comes to the circle. Now I need to look for the empty spaces and fill those in with petals. Right now, this sunflower looks like it is missing some of its petals, and we want ours to look like it is full of petals. So in the spaces where you have extra room, you can just draw part of your petal shape. You can put more than one in a space if you have room. The more petals, the better. This one I have room for the whole side. It just depends on how big you've drawn your original petals. I still think that I have some room up here. I'm going to add a smaller shape up here, and these petals end up looking like they are behind the first ones that we drew. Once your sunflower is filled with petals all the way around, we're going to work on drawing a stem. So on the side of your paper where you have more room, we're going to draw a stem to the bottom. I'm going to use a slightly curved line, starting at one of the petal shapes and down to the edge of the paper. Then I'm going to draw another side so that it makes a shape and not just one line for the stem. After, I'm going to draw some leaf shapes. I'm using another curved line and one on the other side. It's pretty much just like a smaller petal shape. So I'll put one leaf on each side of my stem. Once you've drawn your sunflower, the next step is using some oil pastels to outline and color in a few parts of our drawing. So I'm using the yellow oil pastel to outline all of the pencil lines that are my petal shape. So I'm starting at the center and making sure that I go over each pencil line. Notice that this is just an outline. I didn't color in my petals at all. I left the middle part white because we're going to paint our petals to fill them with color. I am adding a few lines on my petals to show the texture of them. Maybe 2 or 3 lines near the center of the sunflower on each petal. You can also add a little bit of orange lines if you like as well. Remember, just a few on each petal. We're not coloring in our petals, we're going to paint them. Next, we're going to use a brown oil pastel and we're going to outline the circle in the center of our sunflower. We are also going to color this in. I'm going to layer a few colors because when we look at a real sunflower, the center isn't just brown. We often see some warm colors like orange, maybe even a little bit of green. You can make your own mixture of the colors for the center of your sunflower. Here I'm putting a little bit of green on top. We want to make sure to color in the entire circle. Next, we're going to use green and we're going to add color to our stem. So I'm outlining the sides first and the leaf shapes. We can also color in the stem with the green oil pastel. Right now I'm using the dark green, but we also have a bright green that we can use as well. So you could put both on your stem or one, you choose, you are the artist. I like how putting the lighter one on one side and the darker one on the other makes my stem look a little bit 3D because the darker green looks like a shadow. I'm also going to do that with my leaves. I'm adding a little bit of dark green, and then I'm going to fill the center in with the lighter green. Now remember, we're not coloring in our petals yet. We're going to add color to those after with paint. Our last step is adding some lines in the background with a blue oil pastel for the sky. When we look at Vincent van Gogh's work, the artist that we're inspired by for this project, he uses little lines of color with his paintbrush. He does this in the sky to show movement. Movement could be like the wind blowing in the sky. So I'm just making little dashed lines all the way around my sunflower. We want to fill in all of the space that we can with these short little dashed lines, like Vincent van Gogh. Now let's go over how to paint our sunflower. So once you're done with oil pastel, you've outlined the center of your sunflower, you've colored it in with brown and mixed in a few colors, you've outlined the petal shapes with yellow and drawn some lines on them in yellow and orange, and you've outlined and colored in your stem shapes with green. Also, you have added dashed lines with blue in your background. Then you're ready to paint. Make sure that you have all of those parts before you start painting. You'll need a messy mat, a water cup, and your paints. We're going to start by painting the petals, and we're going to start with the color orange. Remember when we're using these paints that we need to wake them up by adding water. So I'm swirling my brush around on orange to wake it up. And I'm going to add the orange near the brown center of my sunflower. I'm just adding a little bit, not a lot all the way to the end. Then I'm going to rinse my brush, and I'm going to use the yellow on the rest of that petal shape. And I'm going to blend the yellow at first into the orange. So it should look like your petals are fading from orange to yellow at the end. We see that a lot on sunflowers, that they're darker near the center of the flower and a brighter and lighter yellow at the ends. When you're working on a petal that is kind of behind another petal, I'm just putting a little bit of orange there, and then I can blend that yellow in. It's really important to clean your brush before you use yellow. If we don't, then we'll end up getting a lot of orange on our yellow, and it wouldn't be very yellow anymore. So remember, paint with a little bit of orange near the brown center, and then rinse your brush and paint with yellow. Blend that into the orange, and then put the yellow towards the end of the petal and fill in the entire shape. Now that all my petals are painted in, I can work on painting the background. We're going to use two different shades of blue. We'll have the darker blue and a turquoise blue to use. And we're going to paint right over the little dashed lines we put in the background. Remember to wake up your colors before you use them. The more water that you add to this, the more you'll be able to see the lines of your oil pastel through your paint. And I'm carefully painting around the petal shapes. It might be a good idea to even try to outline where the petals are, so then you can easily fill in that area with blue. Oil pastel and the water from the paint don't mix, so they create something called an oil resist. That's how you can see your oil pastel through the paint. Remember, if your brush makes a scratchy noise, that means it's thirsty and it needs more water to work the right way. So if you hear that scratchy noise, dip back in your water cup and add a little bit more water. If you can't see your oil pastel, you should see it appear. I'm going to carefully paint around everything here and fill in all the white spots of my background. I'm just using a little bit of the dark blue and the turquoise blue. You can use them however you'd like. I'm just kind of blending them together on my paper. Now I'm all done with my Van Gogh Sunflower because my entire paper is filled with color. When you're done, remember to put your painting on the drying rack with your messy mat underneath to dry. I can't wait to see how your sunflower turns out.